Achtung, hier sind die Koordinaten 255091. Angriffspunkt Dora.
Imagine this. In the middle of the night, a single radio message from Adolf Hitler travels through the air across Europe. It is short. It is scrambled. It sounds like nothing but static. The British catch it. They save it. They write it down. And then they almost ignore it. Inside that message was a plan so dangerous that it could have destroyed Britain and changed the entire war. If one man hadn't noticed something strange, if one tiny piece of paper had been thrown away, your world today might look completely different. This is the story of how British codebreakers almost missed Hitler's most secret orders, and how a message almost lost forever ended up saving millions of lives. The year is 1941. World War II is raging across Europe. Cities are burning. Planes roar overhead. People sleep with fear in their hearts. Britain is one of the last countries still fighting against the Nazis. Supplies are low. Food is running out. The ocean is filled with danger. And deep inside Germany, Hitler prepares new plans every day, plans sent through coded messages. One of these messages, a few seconds long, might be the most important message of the entire war. But when the British received it, they didn't understand it. They didn't know what it was hiding. They didn't know what was coming. Most people think war is only tanks, guns, and soldiers. But there was another war happening, and a secret war, fought with minds instead of weapons. This secret war took place inside Bletchley Park, a large old house in the English countryside. At first glance, it looked like a peaceful mansion. A garden, a pond, brick buildings, quiet grass and trees. But inside, thousands of people were working day and night. Their job wasn't to fight with weapons. Their job was to read German secrets. The Germans used a special machine called Enigma to hide their messages. Without cracking Enigma, the British were blind. They had no idea where enemy ships were going. They didn't know when attacks were coming. They couldn't protect their own soldiers. So Bletchley Park became one of the most important places in the world. Inside its walls, the real future of the war was being decided. The Enigma machine was not big, but it was powerful. It looked like a wooden box with keys like a typewriter. But inside it had spinning rotors, wires, plugs, lights, dozens of mechanical parts. Every time someone pressed a letter, the rotors moved and changed the letter into something else. For example, I might become R. R might become Q. Q might become L. The next day, the same letter would become something completely different. Because the Germans changed Enigma settings every single day, the British had to start from zero every morning. The machine had billions of possible combinations. No normal human could solve it. The Germans trusted Enigma so much that they sent their most secret messages through it. U-boat attack plans, weather reports, troop movements, supply routes, aircraft orders, and even Hitler's private instructions. Hitler believed Enigma could never be cracked. And for a long time he was right. Bletchley Park was filled with interesting people. Many were young. Many never broke a code before. But they were smart, fast, and hardworking. Some were mathematicians, puzzle solvers, chess champions, language experts, professors, school teachers, and many women who became expert code breakers. The most famous person there was Alan Turing. Turing was shy. He didn't talk much. He liked working alone. He thought differently from other people. But he had a superpower. He could see patterns no one else could. When others saw noise, he saw clues. When others gave up, he kept going. When others said something was impossible, he wanted to try anyway. Turing believed that Enigma could be beaten, not by a person, but by a machine. So he helped build a new machine called the bomb. The bomb worked like a giant mechanical brain. It tested thousands of possible Enigma settings very quickly. Because of Turing's work, the British started reading some German messages, but not all. One type of Enigma was still extremely hard. Naval Enigma, used by the German Navy. And this is where the story becomes dangerous. Britain needed ships from America and other countries to bring food, fuel, and weapons. But German submarines, and called U-boats, hunted these ships. The ocean became a deadly place. Every week, British ships were attacked, torpedoed, sunk, left burning on the water. Thousands of sailors died. Families waited for news that never came. Prime Minister Winston Churchill later said, "The only thing that ever really frightened me was the U-boat danger. If the U-boats succeeded, Britain would starve. So reading German naval messages became life or death. But Naval Enigma was harder. It used more rotors, more plugs, more settings. Sometimes Bletchley Park could read German messages, but other times they were stuck. That's why the message from Hitler, the one almost ignored, was so important. One day, British radio stations picked up a short German signal. It had a special label. Führer Directive, confidential. Führer means leader, referring to Hitler. But the British workers thought, this is probably just political stuff. Not urgent. Not about the Navy. So they put it in a low-priority pile. They had so many messages to decode, hundreds every day, that they focused on the ones they believed were more important. And so the message sat there. Hours passed, then days. It gathered dust. Nobody knew that inside this message was a huge secret. A new plan to move U-boats into deadly positions across the Atlantic. A plan to destroy British ships. A plan that could end all hope for Britain. But at that moment, no one at Bletchley Park had a clue. Meanwhile, Alan Turing noticed something odd. German ships were changing their usual routes. Some were moving faster, some were moving slower. U-boats were showing up in places they normally didn't go. British ships suddenly began disappearing. Reports came in, ship missing. Ship sunk, convoy attacked. Something was happening. Something big. Turing felt uneasy. His mind kept thinking, the Germans must have a new plan. But where is the message? So he asked to look again at old messages that had been ignored, including the one labeled Führer Directive. But others at Bletchley Park said, we don't have time. We have too many urgent messages. It's probably nothing. Turing didn't give up. He insisted, again and again. Finally, one supervisor agreed. Fine, let's check it. That one decision changed everything. The message was fed into the decoding machines. The rotors spun. Lights blinked. Papers printed out. Slowly, the secrets came to life. What they found shocked everyone. The message was not political. It was not useless. It was not boring. It was a direct order from Hitler to the German Navy. Move U-boats to new positions. Create hidden wolf packs. Attack British supply convoys. Cut off food and weapons. Bring Britain to its knees. It was a blueprint for total destruction, and the British had almost not seen it at all. One small mistake could have changed the entire war. Now that the British knew Hitler's plan, they faced a horrible decision. If they protected every ship, the Germans would know their code was broken. If the Germans realized Enigma was no longer safe, they would change everything. Then Bletchley Park would lose their advantage. The Allies could go blind again, so the British chose a heartbreaking strategy. Save some ships, pretend they didn't know everything, allow a few attacks to happen, act slowly and carefully. This was painful, lives were lost, but it protected the secret that would eventually help win the war. With the decoded message, the British changed ship routes, sent airplanes to new areas, avoided U-boat traps, set up ambushes, surprised German submarines. Soon British ships were safer. More convoys made it across the ocean. More U-boats were found and destroyed. The Germans were confused. How are the British always one step ahead? Is there a spy? Are we just unlucky? They never suspected Bletchley Park. They never guessed Enigma was broken. They never realized one message had given the British the key. The Battle of the Atlantic slowly changed. Britain began to breathe again, and it all started with the message that was almost thrown away. After the war, most people never learned what happened at Bletchley Park. The Codebreakers were sworn to secrecy. They couldn't talk about their work. Not even to their families. For 30 years, their story stayed hidden. Alan Turing didn't receive awards during his lifetime. Many others were forgotten for decades. But today, historians believe, code-breaking shortened the war by 4 years. Millions of lives were saved. The world would be different without their work. Bletchley Park was one of the most important places of the entire war. Even though almost nobody knew it at the time. Think about it. One message, just a few seconds long, almost ignored, almost lost forever. But because one person, Alan Turing, paid attention, the message was decoded. The U-boat plan was discovered. Convoys were saved. Britain survived, and the world changed. This story teaches us something powerful. History does not always change because of huge battles. Sometimes history changes because of one small mistake, one curious mind, one piece of paper, one moment when someone says, wait, something isn't right. This is the true story of how British codebreakers almost missed Hitler's most secret orders and how a tiny message helped save the world from disaster.